When I was young, my parents gave me a gift, a great gift, which still gives to me every week, every day, even right now. They instilled in me a belief that I could do anything I set my mind to. Now, that one belief, if it were enough, would be great, but it hasn't been. I've had many mentors over the years. I'm going to give you a little snapshot. Everybody dreamed of being like Mike. And we all used to run down to the basket and try to do his moves. And my dad and I, we would do a project every summer. We would build something. And one summer, we built our own basketball goal. It was very sturdy. We poured the concrete ourselves, and it had this special feature where it could be raised or lowered. And at 10 feet, I could barely touch the rim. But when we brought the thing down to 8 feet, I was Michael Jordan. We'd watch the slam dunk competitions, then we'd go outside and we'd try it out. The one where he goes down the side of the key, brings the ball to the left hand at the last second, slams on the other side. Or the famous one where he leaps off at the free throw line, just hovers in midair with his tongue hanging out. You can't see it from there, but I have a nasty hole in my tongue from an unfortunate basketball incident. One day, I was shooting hoops with a family friend, an older guy named Mike, and he was kind of a mentor to me. And he had played professional sports for several years. And he was, a big, strong guy. And we're shooting the hoops. He says, "Graham, what are you going to do someday? What are you going to do when you grow up?" "Oh, I was thinking NBA. Get my education first, it's important." And he just looked at me. "What? You barely made the freshman team." "Yeah, I know. JV wouldn't even look at you." "Yeah, I know. And the freshman team only lets you play in the last 5 minutes when they're down by 40 or more points." "Yeah, I'll get better." "You'll get better when?" "Magic Johnson was in national papers at age 12. When are you going to get better?" And he wasn't trying to be mean. He just wanted me to realize that my head was in the clouds. See, my parents' lesson, you can do anything you set your mind to. There's other pieces to this. You have to be able to put in the work. And for me, the gap between the talent I had, the low talent I had, and what was needed for the NBA was such a large gap that it would have taken an amazing amount of work to get there. I don't even know how much, but more than I was able to give. So I started to think, what were my talents? Okay, science and math. I was always kind of the smart kid in class. So I'll go with that. And I had a few friends who were like me, and we were on the science team. And we did great. We went to the state competition, the Science Bowl, and we cleaned up. We trounced everybody. The whole state was cheering against us by the end of the competition. It was awesome. We prided ourselves on not preparing, not working hard. We'd show up, "Yeah, this is nothing. We'll take care of this." And that attitude of not wanting to work hard, it was okay for a little while, but it came back to bite me when I applied for college. You see, I wanted to go to MIT or Harvard, but I didn't get in. See, I hadn't been doing my homework, literally. My dad gave me the ride to college. I got into Boston University, which I enjoyed thoroughly. We got in the car, and we had to drive through Cambridge. And, of course, we drove by MIT and Harvard along the river. My dad turned to me, and in a way that only my dad could say, in a loving way, "Graham, if you'd studied a little harder, we'd be there by now." The same attitude continued into college. I stayed up until 3 a.m. every night with my friends. I had to sleep in class to make up for that lost sleep. But I did okay. It was freshman year. I was a smart guy, I just coasted on through. But I was ambitious. I wanted to do something hard. I was a physics major, after all. I decided I was going to do study abroad. But not just the normal study abroad where Americans go to another country where they speak a foreign language and then they hang out with Americans all day. No, I wanted to do something hard. So I went to La Universidad Autónoma de Madrid. It's a Spanish university that had a relationship with Boston, and I took all my classes in Spanish, all the exams in Spanish, all the textbooks, everything. But my Spanish wasn't that great yet. So I show up, I start taking classes, and I don't understand half of what the professor says, or 70% of what the professor says, but I figure, I'm an American. I can handle this. And I was bragging about this with the second mentor I'm going to tell you about, a guy named Roy. I was bragging about how in high school, I could do all this great stuff without preparing, didn't need to work, I'm just smart, I just absorb it. And he looked at me with that same shock, or the same kind of attitude that Mike had years before, and he said, "Your attitude is terrible. There is nothing admirable about laziness. Nothing at all. You got this far on your talent. Where could you have gotten with talent plus hard work?" I pretended that I could have just ignored it, pretended those words didn't sink in, but they did sink in, and I started to work hard. But it wasn't enough. I didn't speak good enough Spanish to realize that I was way too far behind already. In Spain, they give 100% of your grade to your final exam. Final exams came that December. I failed every class. Every single class. I'd never gotten a C before. I was freaking out! What am I gonna do? I'm gonna get expelled. This is the end of my life. I called my dad. He started talking about flipping burgers. This is what I'm gonna do with my physics degree, which I'm not even gonna get. My dad let me go back. I took that second semester in Spain, and it was a continuation of those first semester classes. Now, I studied harder than I ever had before. I totally changed my life. My trip to school each day had 3 legs, 1 bus and 2 trains, and I planned out every day what I was going to study on each leg of the trip, on the way there, on the way back, during each hour of the day. I was reading while I was walking. My backpack became a part of my body. One night, I met up with some friends without my backpack, and my friend didn't recognize me. I studied incredibly hard, and I got better at Spanish, but I was still too far behind. June came, the end of June, our final exams. I failed every class again. Now my life is actually over. I go back home to Boston for the summer. That's where I lived at the time. What am I going to do? I studied anyway, kept studying all summer. And in Spain, they have this special thing where in September, you can retake the finals from the previous year. I went back to Spain. I retook all 8 finals from the previous year. I passed 6 of them. Okay, that's 3 classes. That was pretty good. Then I loaded up on classes. And the next year, I stayed in Spain a second year, which in our program was unheard of. I loaded up extra classes, and I passed most of those, came back to Boston for my senior year. I was ahead of the other physics majors. There were no more undergraduate classes for me to take. Score, doing well. And I was excited, because now I get to take a graduate class, graduate level quantum mechanics. And this is where things really start to get crazy. And you have to forget your intuition, throw it out the door, and talk about waves and multiple existence of a single particle interacting with itself on the other side of a wall, and just crazy stuff. You just trust the equations and just move ahead, but nobody really understands it. And definitely, I was one of those people who didn't understand it. I was lost from day one. I worked harder than I had ever studied, even in Spain, just in that one class, more than half my time. I went to the professor every week. I went to grad students for help. I barely pulled out a C. Here I am in my last semester. I had wanted to study physics from age 9, and I'm questioning it. And to make it worse, there's a kid sitting next to me in class, smart as anything, correcting the professor left and right, and he was a freshman. This is who I'm competing with? And what am I competing for? I'm going to be watching a computer screen 8,000 feet underground in a detector looking for some particle in the middle of the night, getting paid hardly anything. That's what I'm working for? And I knew to be excellent or even be mediocre in this field, the field that I now understood, I would have to give up all my free time, no time for friends or family. I decided, that's not what I want. I want a life. So what am I going to do? So I finished out my degree. And like many people who finish their degree, they don't know what they're going to do next. So I kind of wandered. I went to tried to get a job. I sent out tons of resumes, and they would ask me, the first question they always ask you, how much experience do you have? Well, let's see. In my own field, I've got 0 experience. How much could I possibly have in your field? I did what most people do. When your bank account gets low enough, I got to make a job. There's no shame in it. You do what you got to do. I worked at a restaurant, got to know the waitstaff. They all had degrees from my school. One of them had a master's degree. Like, oh no, is this where I'm headed? Is this my future? But even working as a waiter, I never stopped studying, even though I wasn't in school. I never stopped trying to get new skills. I never stopped networking. And finally, I got a good job, a temp job, at an international company selling technology. And I was working as a temp worker for the guy heading up the multinational deals. And his name is Armin. He's the 3rd mentor I'm going to tell you about. I made mistake after mistake at that job. Stupid mistakes like taking a nap in my cubicle. It's kind of a no-no in the business world. But I didn't know that because I was sleeping in class, remember? I made lots of non-obvious mistakes, like things having to do with business communication, but every day I'd get pulled into his office. He'd shut the door. Graham, sit down. And he'd have the stern face, and he'd give me a stern talking to every day. And he would use phrases like, what are you trying to get me fired? Were you trying to ruin this company? And he was harsh. And every day I thought I was going to get fired. I kept walking to work thinking, this is my last day at work. And Armin grew up in Baghdad. He grew up in a very different environment where harshness is just kind of the way they do things. And one day, I was sitting in someone else's cubicle on our floor. Armin couldn't see me. Armin had walked up and he was talking to someone else who was on the other side of a wall. I heard him talk about me to someone else, and my jaw dropped. He made me sound like the employee of the year. He made me sound like the best employee he's ever had. He said all these amazing things about me, and it totally changed the way I felt about him, the way I saw all the coaching that he was giving me. And that's what it was coaching. I've stayed close to him over the years. But what happened next in that company was they had some changes going on, and they pulled me out of his group and stuck me somewhere else with a boss who didn't know me or care about me. And I was on a steady stream of making constant mistakes. The first mistake I made, I was out the door. That person just fired me rather than deal with me. But all this taught me, when you find someone who's loyal like that, stick with them. Try to surround yourself with loyal people. Armin and I stayed so close, I was the best man in his wedding years later. So I look at all the jobs I've done over the years, and I think less now about how much money I can get. I'm starting to think more about what am I going to leave behind? What am I actually doing with my most limited resource, time? Am I doing something that's just going to keep things going, or am I doing something actually new? Am I just wasting oxygen for a while? You see, right now is the most amazing time ever to be alive because humanity is waking up. We're more connected than ever before. And trust me, the difference between now and when I was a kid in areas like discrimination, the way people treat the LGBT community, it's light years better than it was when I was a kid. So many things are better. We feel like the world's getting more violent, for instance, but professors like Steven Pinker at Harvard have shown that's just perception. The world is actually getting more and more peaceful. And technology, we all know technology gets better, but it gets better at an exponential rate. And we, mere mortals, we think linearly. It's really hard to get your mind around what happens when technology goes exponential. Solar energy, for instance, is getting better at the same rate as computers, doubling every couple of years. Now, we used to fight wars over salt. Did you know that? Who would do that now? You can get this much salt for less than 90 cents. And we don't even need it for refrigeration, which is the key. Technology fixed that solution. Technology is going to fix our addiction to oil, too. Technologists like Ray Kurzweil have talked about the doubling power of solar technology. In about 16 years, we'll have enough installed solar capacity to equal the current global usage of electricity. Around that time, solar technology becomes on par with the cheapest of the fossil fuels. And that makes you think, oh, they're going to compete for a little while. No. 2 years later, it's half. 2 years after that, it's a quarter. Only people who are really rich trying to show off are going to be using fossil fuels. See, humanity is waking up. And in the future, you're going to find yourself either in a job where you're maintaining, just doing something that when you're done, everything's the same way it was before, or a job where you're expanding. You're adding to the waking up, contributing to the waking up of humanity. Now, it doesn't have to be in your job. It can be in your volunteer time. It can be in your art or something you write. But I encourage you all, humanity is waking up. Be a part of it. Thank you.